Let's figure it out now. It's your committee.
No more.
Now, are these open now? Or are they making appointments, recommendations
Right
today?
now, we're gonna recommend candidates for these positions.
Oh, they're already interviewed.
We interview them. It's already agenda.
That's what I said.
Yeah, this is your agenda, so, yeah.
All right, it's 6:01. We're gonna call the meeting to order.
Recording
We
in
just did
progress.
The Pledge of Allegiance as well as a moment of silence. So can I have a roll call, Ms. Lawrence?
Mr. LaScavitch.
Here.
Mr. Lombardo.
Here.
Ms. McDermott. Here. Mr. McGinley. Second. Mr. Perry.
Here.
Mr. Schnee.
Present.
Mr. Thornton.
Here.
Mr. Urban.
Here.
Mr. Lovett.
Here.
Ms. Radel.
Here.
9 to 10.
Do we have any deletions to the voting session agenda?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to delete items 4 and 5 from the voting session agenda.
Could we do them separately? So if you want to delete 4 first, we'll do a motion for that.
Okay,
Okay, so we have a motion to delete number 4. It's ERA,
Second.
amending the budget. Second, roll call on removing 4.
Mr. LaScavitch.
yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
No.
Ms. McDermott.
No.
Mr. Perry.
No.
Mr. Schnee.
No.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
No.
No, and 4 yes.
Okay, the motion, number 4 stays. Then we have a motion to remove 5.
I'll second that, Logan.
We have a motion and a second to remove 5. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Lombardo.
No.
Ms. McDermott. Yes. Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes. Okay, number 5 is removed from the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? None heard. Agenda is adopted. We have public comment on voting session and agenda items.
First, we can be on the second one.
Yeah. Okay. We good? Okay, Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes, thank you. Just being fiscally responsible. Some of these agendas, I'm a little new at this, so some of these things are a little over my head, but to make it simple is there's a lot of money on the table here. And being a businessman my whole life, you know, normally you get a budget and then you put out bids and then you figure stuff out and then allocate money. I think we're doing it backwards a lot of times where we're just giving the money out and you guys are not, I don't see anything, maybe you do, but I don't see it. I don't think the public sees it. I think you're entrusting in our government a little too much and you don't have as much hands-on as I think a good business, and that's what we are running business. in Luzerne County. And the other thing is, the thing that I want to talk about is I had a lot of time to think about this week, whether or not going from 3 times speaking at the podium to 2. And I kind of understood Mr. Lombardo's thing and in his press, I kind of thought about it. I thought, he has a good point there. But the more I thought about it, you guys are here for the public. Bottom line is you should listen to us as much as possible and then make the decisions because we entrusted you to make those decisions, but you really should listen to us. And not only that, but I think anybody that listens here in the public, and if you do vote no, I think the next election we're gonna realize that you didn't want to listen to us. Don't ask for a vote. Thank you. Or in any other elections, if you have election aspirations.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Mr. Knapp?
Ms. Radel, when I'm talking, please don't interrupt me. I still have 3 minutes. Go ahead. Yeah.
Please keep your comments to yourself.
No, I can keep my comments. I'm a person. You work for me, I don't work for you. Thank you.
Ronald Knapp, Nanticoke, U.S. Army Reserve veteran. I'm going to speak on agenda 8, motion to approve resolution FDA or flood protection authority, ARP, American Rescue Plan. This is appropriate, as I stressed in last meeting. I would agree that the tax estate should be passed on to the contributor, the taxpayer. Agenda 9, motion to approve resolution land bank request. I am all for doing something with the abandoned buildings that plague our area. I am also in agreement that the Blighted Property Review Committee that is in unison with County Council should couple up with the Northeast Pennsylvania Land Bank and work on trying to combat against this plight we are facing throughout the county. Agenda 10, motion to amend bylaws, we will second public comments from voting session. I find it very difficult. I was going to address 4 items tonight, but now I'm on 3 with them being eliminated. But I find it very difficult to address 14 agenda items in the 3 minutes that were allotted this evening. That's for the agenda time that we're speaking. Each 3-minute time frame is essential, in my opinion. To eliminate 3 minutes from the 9 allotted would be detrimental because the Home Rule Charter drafters provided these very important time slots so the constituents' voices could be heard. The constituents who placed the members of council in office to begin with. If council wants to amend the bylaws, I would agree that the last 3 minutes after the voting session be moved to the front of the voting session to hear from the voters on the ideas to resolve items during the voting session. Now, I do appreciate, council, that this could be political suicide, me talking about this right now, with your decision on who you're going to select for council, the 11th seat. But the fact of the matter is, I want the voters to know that you place these individuals here. You will place me here if I am not selected for the council seat. I want you to take that to heart. The 3 minutes were allotted for each time. The drafters of the Home Rule had it specifically designed for the very purpose of the voice of the people to be heard.
Thank you,
for
Mr.
your
Knapp.
time.
Mr. Yanuzzi, did you want to talk now or when we get to the agenda item on the Flood Protection Authority?
I could talk now or I could talk later, however.
Whichever you prefer. If it's specifically regarding that, we could let you speak when we get to the,
Okay, I can wait.
is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Gregaris, if I'm saying that
Yes,
correctly?
thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know, I might be out of turn because it is an agenda item, but it was just removed. And
Yeah, if it was removed, you could speak after we get to the public comment at the end of this voting meeting.
okay, but how about just about the process? I mean, if there is an agenda and I didn't hear or see any discussion, just a vote. And I did see a lot of, I don't know if despair was the right word, but uncertainty in votes. And how could we have something that I saw on an agenda that I wanted to speak on? And now it's being removed from an agenda, hopefully being on an agenda in 2 more weeks. And it's involving small business funding, which I think is a tremendous impact. And some of the allegations that we don't want to duplicate, and there might be money coming later. The folks that I talk with in the small business community on a regular basis, we're struggling. We're hurting.
Unfortunately, since we're not voting on it, you could get your full 3 minutes and speak to this at the end of the meeting once we're done with the voting items.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Ms. Fasaro?
I'd like to speak during the election board discussion.
You can speak, if it's something we're addressing during the meeting, you could speak ahead of the meeting or at the end of the meeting. I'm not sure what agenda item.
No, I have no problem with speaking now. So my name is Alyssa Fisero, and I'd like to address the council about the open position for the Board of Elections. I've been up for it twice now and passed over for someone else. I take the commitment very seriously, and I take your decision very seriously. Luzerne County has been my home for the majority of my life. And right now, I have heard a lot of people saying that they have lost faith in their process. They have lost faith and they don't want to vote anymore. They don't even want to go to cast a vote anymore. I think it's important that we bring back that faith in that process. Whether you believe something happened or didn't happen, that's not the issue. We need to focus on bringing back faith in our process. And I'd like to be a part of that. So I'd like you to consider voting me onto the board. All right, excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Earl. Mr. Durcha?
Non-agenda?
Oh, non-agenda? Okay, I'm sorry. It looks like everybody else here is a non-agenda item. Do any other members of the public have comments on agenda items? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 8th, 2022 voting session?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? Minutes are approved. I don't see anything under old business, unless anybody has anything. If not, okay, we have number one, motion to adopt ordinance amending the 2022 fiscal year budgets for Luzerne County State Facility Closure Ordinance.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
On the question, actually.
Sure.
Just to be clear, now, there is no repealer in here or amending the previous ordinance that was passed last year. Do we need to clear up that ordinance, or is that, because it doesn't say anything about changing the ordinance that's already present?
Okay.
So, you know, that's the only issue that I have, is that if we pass this one, the other one's still in effect.
Attorney Craig Lipsansky or Attorney DeLuca, do you have a comment on that? There's already an existing ordinance that Mr. Urban's addressing.
I don't know if of course, we always ask Councilman Urban if he has any questions like that to bring them up when we present everyone with the drafts. I'm not prepared as I sit here to answer that. I could ask Shannon, but this certainly is an unfortunate time to bring it up. I'll check with her now and see if I could get her on.
I mean, just for the record, I sent an email a few days ago.
I saw your email and it didn't address that.
I actually put both ordinances in the email as an attachment. And I did ask something around that, so.
No, the specific issue that you're raising, I think you mentioned something about 20 cents was missing. Is that the one?
Well, that was just one part of that was in one paragraph, but there was more to it if you read further down.
I mean, this motion is to amend the 2022 fiscal year budget. So, I mean, it's dealing with two different years.
So was last year's ordinance. Last year's ordinance basically put in the 2021 budget and 2022 budget. This particular ordinance, you know, just because they didn't spend $7 grand last year out of the 10,000 that was allocated, the end number is still the same. But presenting a second ordinance without repealing the first one or amending the first one is kind of duplication. And there's two ordinances sitting out there for the same thing. That basically at the end of the day, we're still having the same total amounts of money being allocated for each municipality.
But by operation of law, this one would control. I mean, there's no harm.
Repealer in here though.
there's no harm in putting an additional sentence in, but this is specifically dealing with the 22 budget, so this would control. Obviously, there's no harm in adding a sentence, but I don't think it affects the legality of the ordinance in any way.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call on?
Motion
agenda
to
item
table
number
this till they get it straight.
Okay, we have a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call on tabling agenda item number 1.
Ms. McDermott?
No.
Mr. Perry?
No.
Mr. Schnee?
No.
Mr. Thornton?
No.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
No.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
No.
Ms. Radel?
No.
Yes, 7 no.
Okay, the motion isn't tabled, so we have a motion and a second to adopt this ordinance amending the 2022 budget. Can we have a roll call on the ordinance, please?
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
No.
Mr. Wilovich?
No.
Mr. LaScavitch?
No.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes. Agenda item number 2, motion to adopt resolution amending resolution 2022-52, setting compensation rates for municipal elected tax collectors and home rule municipalities for the billing and collecting of Luzerne County taxes effective January 1, 2022.
I'd like to amend that. Do we need a?
Yeah, we'll need a motion in a second, then we can make a.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Okay, I'd like to take item paragraph 6, 7, and 8 out. And in paragraphs 2 and 3, change the word from will to can.
Okay. Can,
From will to
from
can.
will to can.
Or do we want to do shall to may? Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to remove the last 3 paragraphs, 6, 7, and 8. And change will to can. Do we have a second for that amendment?
Second.
Okay, roll call on just the amendment.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, it's amended, so now we have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution. Can we have a roll call on adopting it?
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes. Motion passes. Number 3, motion to introduce ordinance amending the 2022 fiscal year budgets for Luzerne County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion. Hello.
Second. Let's go.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Second.
Let's go.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion passes. Number 4, motion to introduce ordinance amending the 2022 fiscal year budgets for Luzerne County ERA.
Present.
Second.
I'll second that.
Lombardo beat him to it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Mr. Perry. Roll call?
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
No.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
No.
Ms. Radel?
Yes. Number 6, we need a motion to approve the amicus brief regarding bridge tolls.
So moved.
I'll second that. Beloved.
Roll call?
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Snead?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 7, motion to approve county manager selection process.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Snead?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion to approve resolution regarding flood protection authority request, ARP funds.
Second was Savage.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Yanussi or Mr. Bellman, do you mind speaking to this? And I think Ms. Crocomo might have something to mention as well.
Good evening, council. I'm Dominic Unuzzi. I'm the chairman of the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority. And here with me this evening is Christopher Bellman, the executive director, and William Hardwick, the vice chairman. I would like to thank council for putting the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority request on the agenda for this evening. Submitted is the request for ARPA funds that have been vetted as eligible by the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority. These projects that will be funded are very important to the ratepayers and the county as a whole. Right outside the window behind me is the flood protection system that protects the Luzerne County Courthouse. Provided all projects are funded in the request, at our last meeting, a unanimous vote was passed to provide a rebate to the ratepayers of the flood protection fee. I will support with other board members and present at least a 10% fee rebate for 2022 for the invoices that are to be mailed out in April. And as I said, the resolution was passed unanimously by the board. In addition, myself and other board members will support and freeze the fee for at least 3 years from 2022 forward, if these funds are presented to the authority. And since 2018, the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority has been able to hold the rates steady for the last 5 years.
Thank you, Mr. Yanussi. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Bear?
Dominic, I think 3 years is a very small amount of money to give back to people. I'm looking for much more than that. 10% isn't too great either. I did a little research in with the lowest tax, the lowest payer is like $63, right around 60 some bucks. The highest, maybe a little bit over 1,000. So we're talking about $6.30 for the lowest one, and maybe $100 for the highest one. I don't think that's enough money for what we're giving you. That's just my personal opinion. I just don't see that. And 3 years. Could you tell me, Dominic, how many? What's your revenue? What's your revenue coming in from the fees?
The annual budget of the Flood Protection Authority is about $1.7 million per year.
Is that all from the?
That's all from the ratepayers. The budget increases if grants are received. So if the Flood Protection Authority receives $1 million grant, of course, the budget gets increased by $1 million. So I'll let you ask some more questions, but I do have an answer to that question that you have. Of the 20 projects requested, there are 4 of the projects in there that will help the annual yearly cost be reduced. And that is the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority, I'm gonna say about 85% of the budget and round numbers is normal operation and maintenance costs that are fixed every year. The rest is for capital and improvements, or buying equipment, or any other unforeseen items that may occur. So if there's a flood event this year, Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority has to come up with those funds, similar to what happened in on Christmas Day in 2020. Those funds just came right out of the budget when the panels had to be put up for the Market Street Bridge. Every other project in there is a capital improvement project that would either be done by budgeting it out over 10, 20, 30 years, looking for grants, or potentially increasing the rates. Two projects would be a potential full reimbursement of funds that the Flood Protection Authority already either paid out or has projected to pay out as part of a project that was unforeseen, such as the accreditation levy evaluation study that had to be funded by the Flood Protection Authority in order to protect those ratepayers that their flood insurance would have to go up. So I have a list here, and I could go each one by one. So
No, that's
that's how we came up with the number of 10%. We felt that the 10% levy fee rebate is doable. If we would have to go any higher than 10%, we'd have to sit down with our accountant and go line by line, item by item, to be able to increase that amount.
How do you get to 3 years?
Well, the 3 years is from the standpoint of everything that we've done over the last 5 years of making efficiencies in the budget. As I mentioned in one of the last meetings, we have helped make the budget about 10% more efficient than it was 5 years ago to help bring some of these capital improvement projects forward quicker. And the 3 years we felt was a foreseeable timeline to be on the conservative approach. Because, for instance, if we have to upgrade the stormwater pump stations, electronic upgrades that would be funded by this request, we would have to come up with $660,000 or half of the budget. So if half of the annual budget has to be increased, we'd have to increase rates by 50%. Otherwise, we'd have to look for a grant. So a lot of these projects are capital improvement projects that are going to shore up and make the flood protection system more resilient than what it is currently today.
Dominic, another question I have. I see that Danielle Conyngham went through and there was at least half of your items that you wanted did not meet the requirements for the ARP funds. I don't know who's making that final determination. Is that correct or not? That's like almost $4 million. And if we give you the 8 million, are you going to make that determination and give the rest of us back that doesn't qualify?
Okay, that's a good question, Mr. Perry. Danielle Conyngham did do an evaluation of our initial request. Since her initial request, we provided an additional clarification to Ms. Crocomo as well as Kendra Radel to be presented to council. And that was after our last meeting on February the 15th. So the way I discuss it with Ramilda Crocomo is that if the county would allocate the $8 million to the Flood Protection Authority, that would be put in a fund. And then each project prior to drawing, either prior to starting the project or drawing any funds down, it would be vetted by, I believe, a consultant that the county is going to hire to vet the projects to make sure that they are eligible in their opinion, as well as ours, since we believe they're eligible.
I can add to that, and Mr. Yanussi is correct in his assertion. And at this point, we have an agreement that if the $8 million is allocated, and if a particular project is deemed not eligible, either the money gets returned or it could be replaced with another eligible project. I just want council to know that with these types of projects and funds, we're not just handing over a check for $8 million. We would be committing gross negligence if we did that. And we're the entity that will be audited and be held accountable should we misuse those funds. So I want council to know that whatever monies that are going to be distributed to whatever organization, and including within the county, we will do check audits to check to see whether the monies are being used correctly. And we will be very exact on whether or not certain projects are eligible. But to move this along, I believe that this is a fair understanding with the Flood Protection Authority. Ultimately, though, all these decisions are up to council.
Thank you, Mr. Horn.
Yeah, Mr. Yanussi, early in your statement, you were talking about Mr. Perry's question about what do the fees amount to that are paid to the FPA annually? Did you say it was 1.7 million?
$1.7 million
per year?
Approximately, yes.
And did you say you were prepared to, with your board members, to waive those fees for 3 years?
Hold the fees for 3 years. So
what does that exactly mean?
So we are there's currently a base flood fee rate. If these ARPA funds are approved, we would put a rebate onto that fee. So the base fee would not increase for 3 years after each year after we evaluate the budget.
So whatever base fee a resident has,
it's going to stay that, right?
Keep that base
Provided there's not a major flood event where there's the levee system has to be repaired or shored up, or there's a lot of unforeseens that we have to deal with on every time there's a storm that comes down the river.
And the 10% reduction was for this year we're in now?
For this year, yes.
And the 3 years was 23, 24, 25?
The 3 years is 22, 23, and 24.
10% this
Okay.
year and no increase. Okay.
And no increase. However, we will evaluate also providing a rebate next year as well. Okay, and I've been here in front of council here, I think the last maybe 3 times this year so far. So you'll see me here again. And if we ever do any large projects with the authority, we like to also let council know what we're doing up there at the Flood Protection Authority, since we're underneath the county.
And that's good communication, because when we go out of this room, the residents come up and ask us questions all the time. And it's nice if we don't say, I don't know anything about that. So that's good.
For sure, especially when we're making any large purchases or any large initiatives. We made sure that the council knew of that before we did anything.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Mr. Urban?
So you mentioned the word rebate. Now, is this going to be a dated rebate? In other words, if they don't pay their bill on a certain date, that they're eligible for 10%, or is this going to be 10% off the actual bill?
We that's a good question. We're looking at ways to be able to provide that rebate, to provide an incentive for the payments to come in sooner. So it could be a dated rebate. There could be a certain timeline where they would have to pay by a certain amount of time, similar to how your county taxes are billed out.
So it's not a true reduction then, if you're using the word rebate. So like, if people pay their tax bills in their municipalities, they get only a percentage back on a certain day. So I don't like the word rebate. The whole premise was a reduction. That's what I asked for. You're looking at 1.7 million, and possibly 10%. The max amount that you would be rebating would be about 500 and what, about 10,000, about $500,000, you know, for 8 million. That's not a fair trade. I mean, and what were you gonna do with all these projects, and how many of these are in the pipeline that are gonna be reimbursed as is right now? I mean, so there should be a couple different buckets here, because you already have some in the pipeline that you
Okay,
just stated that you're working on.
there's a number, I don't know which
Like
list
the-
you
like
have
the-
in front of
I have the
you.
one with the 20 on it. And
The 20,
and the
let me,
two.
let me just make sure you're looking at the same list.
This list here.
that I'm looking at.
Right.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I have them color coded. So items number 12 and 13, if you have our list. Those two projects are underway currently. So they are the projected costs that would have to come out of the Flood Protection Authority coffers. And that would it's pretty much,
That's your current.
that would bring it down significantly of what our reserves are in case there's a flood emergency. So the flood emergency and our reserves are down and there's no funds to pay for it, that would have to be increased by a rate increase.
What's your reserve now?
Our reserve now is, I don't know the exact number of our reserve. Chris, do you have an approximate number of what our reserve may be currently? I mean, we have that unrestricted. Restricted fund.
Well, we have three funds. One is our operations fund, which is for the annual operation and maintenance of the flood protection system. We have a levy raising fund, which is really for the completion of the Wyoming Valley levy raising project. Although the physical construction is complete, there's still a mitigation component that we're trying to complete with the Corps of Engineers. Then finally, we have a restricted capital expenditure fund, which we use for capital improvement projects and expensive equipment purchases.
What's the balances of those three funds?
Well, those two funds are restricted. But it's,
Understood, but what's the money? What's how much?
I'll just off the top of my head, I think with our capital expenditure fund, things like 400,000. And I believe our Wyoming Valley levy raising project fund is about 2 million.
And what about the operations?
The operations fund, as Dominic said, we have approximately 1.7 million a year that we budget. But the last 5 years, it's, you know, the last time we had a levy fee increase was 5 years ago. And we've been fortunate. We've been through efficiencies, cost cutting. We've ended each year with a little bit of a surplus. And I know that in 2021, the surplus is very, very small. And
So right now, I believe, Chris, that we have about $900,000 in the operations fund. Is that correct? If I remember correctly, between 900,000 in the operation fund. That comes in from the levy fee. Okay, so that has to last us until the rest of the revenue comes in for 2022. But the second fund that Chris mentioned, what would you say was like $2 million in that?
that's the Wyoming Valley levy raising.
Wyoming Valley levy raising fund, that cannot be used for the system in the 12 communities. That could be used outside the system of the 12 communities. So although that is funds that are held by the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority, that's for projects that are outside the system. And then there's the capital expenditures fund. For instance, if a vehicle goes down, or if the authority has to put up the panels on the Market Street Bridge and spend $75,000, that's where that money comes from. So the authority's been very vigilant in how they use those funds, looking for grants, trying to preserve what is there, and not raise the rates over the last 5 years. And I've been there for the last 5 years, and I've been through these discussions and.
Yeah, right. And so here's another question though, when there's a flooding event and there's a state of emergency declared or anything like that, how much of that is federally reimbursed?
Sure, if there's a state of emergency and what was done is within the envelope of that, some of that can be reimbursed.
Some or all?
I'm not sure if all of it could be reimbursed. It all depends what's spent.
So going back to 12 and 13, that's in your current fiscal year, correct?
That's in the current fiscal year. So as you could see, that would that's gonna pretty much reduce most of our reserves.
That would be the 1.7 minus the 8. Is any of that reimbursable by the state or anybody? Or did you seek any grants for those two?
No, we did apply for number 13. That was a grant was not received for that. Number 12, that is what has to come out of the funds above the grant that was received. And then if we go into other items such as 6, 9, 11, and 16. Those items, items number 6 and 16, those are items that the Flood Protection Authority has to pay for rent currently for the offices as well as storage of those panels. And that is in the tune of about $80,000 to $90,000 a year for paying rent for facilities that the Flood Protection Authority doesn't own. Items number 9 and 11, the relief wells inspection and testing, that's budgeted within our annual budget to be completed on a regular basis, as well as the levee stormwater culvert penetrations and inspections and repairs. That is done every 5 years.
So getting back to the buildings, would you be reducing those costs if you're going to be buying a building?
Yes, the Flood Protection Authority did buy a command center last year, and renovations are going to start very soon, and then that would cut the rent that the Flood Protection Authority pays in half, and that the loan that the Flood Protection Authority will have on that building is about equal to what the rent is, and a little bit less. So it is actually a better deal for the authority, because then as time goes on, the authority will have equity in the building instead of just paying rent. So if this money comes forward, then that $3,000 to $4,000 a month that would have to go towards the loan of the building will be able to come off of the ratepayers. But if you add that time, if you do, let's just say $4,000 times 12, that's only $48,000 over a $1.7 million budget. So as you can see, that's why the number of 10% is a smaller amount. So the 1.7 isn't used for these large projects. The 1.7 is used to pay the employees, to pay for the equipment, the operations, fuel, materials needed to control the vegetation on the levees and such.
And not to belabor this, but this is the reason why that something like this, it's a very important project. Should go back to like strategic initiatives, like the subcommittee of county council. Let us hash out these details before we go and vote on something this large, because I think we could negotiate a better agreement with us having to represent the people of Luzerne County and also the individuals that live in flood prone areas. But our premise, I think some of us want to see a larger decrease in fee in exchange for it shouldn't be negotiated here at this council meeting, but I think, in one of our subcommittees on another day. I mean, I would prefer to, at this point, there's a lot of discussion and it's great, but I would prefer to table this.
If I could interject, Mr. Urban, it was just, the reason this didn't go to committee and it's on here is that we're working with the deadline to reduce that fee, the levy fee. Those bills need to go out the beginning of April. I believe there's a deadline to get the bills done in March. That's why this did not go to committee and this came straight to council, because we want to see that rebate, come to fruition this year, not wait until next year. Another comment I have is, you're talking about your $1.7 million that you collect in that fee. Right here, I see over $1.7 million, repairing and rehabbing stormwater pumps and levees. And I think that there are a lot of members on council that are in towns and municipalities along the river, West Pittston, Exeter, Pittston, and we see what happens if these pumps aren't working, and we see what happens and what the effects of a flood could be. And I think to see a rebate and these projects get done is beneficial to the county.
And I do want to just add one more thing that I didn't add, that this system was upgraded about 20 years ago. But what we all have to understand is this system is 80 years old. It was built 80 years ago. upgraded 20 years ago. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to shore up a system that was built 80 years ago and upgraded 20 years ago. So that's why we're here tonight. Make sure we protect the 12 municipalities and the 100,000 residents that are in those municipalities. So that's why we're here today, to request that, to provide more resilience to the levee system.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
one last question. Dominic, thanks for answering all my questions. I really appreciate it. I'm not happy with the 10% in the 3 years. Having said that, I'll support it because it's a worthwhile, a very important project, but I'm still not happy with that amount of money going back to the constituents.
Understood.
I have a question too about that. You did say that you do apply for grants. Were there any of these that you were going to apply for grants or feel that you could get any?
It's, I'm gonna put number 13 back on the table there. We thought number 13 was a shoo-in to get a grant last year, and it did not receive a grant. So you never know when you apply for a grant, whether you're gonna get it or you're not gonna get it. So sometimes these grants, although we could apply for them today, you may not get the money until the end of the year or the beginning of next year until you start it. We're talking 2 years down the road until actually we could start spending the funds. And sometimes also to apply for a grant, you almost have to prepare for that grant and get all your information together a year in advance. So it is a good question, but I could say no that any of these other projects in here, yes, we could apply for a grant, but there are no shoo-ins and there's no that we could really say we could apply for, because we're an authority. And some grants we could apply for and some we can't because we're not a municipality or a county. So a lot of the times when we're applying for a grant, we have to look for a sponsor such as the county or a municipality. And we can apply for, similar to like the LSA funds for the gaming grants. So
Thank you.
hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. And then you said that what Daniel had taken out of the list, that they were added back in. So what were all of those added back in? Because there were.
This is the full list, and I believe Mr. Uzi and Ms. Kokomo touched on that if they're awarded this money, they're gonna keep a close eye on this money, and if there is something that does not qualify, that money could be either allocated for a project that does qualify or given back. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. We would either give it back or else we would apply to a new project. But in your packet and the information presented there, I sent an email to Ms. Crocomo and Ms. Radel and Mr. Lombardo and Sharon Lawrence on the 15th of February. And it explains a little bit more of where we're coming at, why we believe it's all these projects are eligible because of public safety as well as reducing the costs to the communities.
Can I make one quick request too, that when you send correspondence, that you send it to the general LCCM address so all of us get it? Because, that way we can read it at our leisure instead of just a couple people on council.
For sure, I thought.
Everybody has busy lives, I just want to make sure that, it's coming from the source to all of us. We're all co-equals here on this council.
Understood. I thought that these emails were.
I mean, it's unnecessary to send it to them and have it forward. Just send it to that one
Sure.
address that we all get at the same time.
Understood.
It was forwarded at the same day, but I.
But that's extra work.
Okay, Mr. Thornton.
Mr. Nuzzi, just looking at all those items, some of them are pretty involved, pretty extensive. I have no idea, and probably most here in the room have no idea to what extent your employees perform some of this work, or is it safe to assume almost all this work is bid out? And if it's bid out, you always get, at least 3 bids, I guess.
Correct. We follow under the same rules as a municipality or county.
Right.
Anything over like $26,000 has to be a public bid. Anything between like 21 and 25, you have to get 3 quotes.
Okay.
So yeah, we follow all the
Good.
municipal bidding codes
Good,
as
thank
an
you.
authority.
Thanks.
Mr. Shnee, did you have a comment?
You said the last 5 years, there hasn't been an increase, and your budget's been $1.7 million. After paying rentals, employees and stuff like that, actually, how much money is being put in each year back into the system?
Again, there's about 15% for capital improvements. Is that a proper number, Chris? About 15?
That's correct.
Okay, about 15% of the budget goes back into the system and capital improvements. So you're talking maybe $250,000 that we could buy a piece of equipment, or if a switchgear goes in a pump, we could replace maybe one switchgear, but we can't replace all the switch gears and upgrade them the way we want to do them as part of this project and provide better reliability. Again, if 2011 comes again, we want to be ready for an event like that.
And I'd just like to make one comment, after working 32 years with the Hazleton City Water Authority, knowing the setup of the system and how much money is coming in and how much money is putting out. I've stated this in the past, that any money, the first money should be devoted to this cause, because you're talking people's lives, people's houses, which they go to work every day for. I think it's a very worthwhile situation. I'm not really happy with the $10, but I mean, for it, you know, I mean, somebody votes no here, you're gonna have that on your conscience. God forbid somebody loses their house or them themselves that a life is lost. So out of all this money, I think it should go to prevent anybody from ever losing their life or their house. I mean, that's just what I say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shi. We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call on this, please, Ms. Lawrence?
Yes. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. Reno?
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion to approve a resolution regarding MEPA land bank request with ARPA money.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Radel? Excuse me, Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes. Motion passes. Number 10, motion to amend bylaws, remove second public comment from the voting session.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Motion to table. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table. It was first, Mr. Urban was the second. Roll call.
On the discussion really quick.
We can't have any discussion once it's
Okay.
tabled. Roll call on tabling.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
No.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
No.
Mr. Perry?
No.
Ms. Radel?
No.
4 no, 5 yes.
All right, it's tabled. Number 11, the nomination and appointment to Luzerne County Council. Do I have a motion to open nominations?
So moved. Second.
All in favor of opening nominations?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Nominations are open.
I make a nomination. Pearl Venus.
Second.
Do I have a motion to close nominations?
Motion to close nominations.
I'll second that. We'll open.
All in favor of closing nominations?
Aye.
All right, roll call on Mr. Venus.
Resolution appointing Mr. Venus?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
And
Congratulations to Mr. Venus.
Yes. Here.
See here. Okay. Number 12, we have council nominations and appointments to boards and commissions. The first one, so these are for council members. We have one term for Can Do expiring 12/31/2022. Do I have a motion to open nominations?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, most nominations are open.
Present Mr. Perry.
Second, Malovich. Second, Malovich.
All in favor of closing nominations?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, nominations are closed. Motion to appoint Mr. Perry to Can Do.
So moved. Second, Malovich.
First, Wilovich, second. Roll call.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes. Okay, another council member appointment. We have the Luzerne Conservation Board, one term expiring 12/31/2022.
Motion to open nominations.
Second, Malovich.
All in favor of opening nominations?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are open.
Motion for Greg Wilovich.
Second.
Motion to close nominations.
Who was the second?
Schnee, second.
Second, okay, and then we have a motion to close nominations. We have a second to close.
Second.
All in favor of closing nominations?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, okay. So now we can appoint, a motion to appoint Mr. Wilovich to the Luzerne Conservation Board.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes,
Unanimous.
we have, next we have the Riverfront Parks, one council member.
So
Motion
moved.
to open.
Open,
Second. Second. Urban.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are open.
Make a nomination, nominate Mr. Kevin Liscavige.
Second.
Motion to close nominations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who was the second on the nomination?
You-
No.
you?
Or-
I said it.
He seconded the motion. She closed the nominations.
No, I have a motion for Mr. LaScavitch by Mr. Willoughby nomination. Who seconded the nomination?
Mr. Lombardo,
Yeah.
Sorry,
that's okay.
there's several go on at once and I can't tell who.
We all just can't wait to get there.
Deep breath.
All right, motion to appoint LaScavitch.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Unanimous.
We have one council member to the Blighted Property Review Committee.
Motion to open nominations.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are open.
Motion to appoint Greg Wilovich.
Second.
Motion to close
Steve
nominations.
Urban.
I respectfully decline that one.
Motion to close nominations.
Second.
Motion to nominate John Lombardo.
I'm sorry, who was the second on the close?
We didn't, oh,
To close nominations?
I nominated John. I would like
She
to-
closed my
before
second.
we close them. What's that?
Did you close nomination?
I did make.
We had a motion and then I made a motion.
Oh, I
to
seconded
nominate.
it.
Okay,
It's okay.
So we have two people then?
no, then he
Yeah, I
declines as
respectfully.
well. Okay, so then motion and second to close nominations.
You decline, John?
All right, so we have all in favor of closing nominations.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are closed. Motion to appoint Mr. Wilovich to the Blighted
So
Property
moved,
Review
Urban.
Committee.
Second. Thornton.
Roll call.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, we have two council member spots on the County Cares Commission, both expiring in 2025.
presented.
He's open.
Yeah, he's opening.
Second.
All in favor of opening nominations?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are open.
Kim Duryea.
I already have a spot on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Perry.
I'll second that below.
I'd like to nominate John Lombardo.
Second.
Do I have a motion to close nominations?
So moved, Irvin. Second below.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are closed. So now we can appoint both of them together since we only have 2 nominations and 2 spots, but separate resolutions. Do we have to do separate? Okay. So we'll do appointing Mr. Perry first. Roll call.
First,
So moved.
Second. Irvin Thornton.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion to appoint Mr. Lombardo.
First
So moved.
motion. Okay, second.
Who's the first?
Willoughby. Thornton.
I tried.
It's okay. Roll call.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes. Okay, so now we have the nominations and appointments to authorities. The first one we have is the Convention Center Authority. We have 5 terms, all expiring in 2026. Do I have a motion to open nominations?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Lori Spencer.
Second.
Guillermo Lara.
Second. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
So I have a first from Mr. Lombardo, a second from Mr. Urban on Spencer. And I have
Guillermo Lara.
And I'll second that.
Make a motion for John Pickering.
Second.
I'll make a motion for John Ruckman.
Second. Below.
Motion for Robert Bertoni.
Who was that? What's the name?
Robert Bertone.
Robert Bertoni.
Tony.
You have a second on that?
I second it.
Make a motion for Frank Orlowski.
I'll second that.
Who's the second, please?
Schnee, I think.
She, I think, I got it by a second.
Second. On Orlowski.
We have 6 names on 5.
Yep,
spots,
we
right?
could, you could keep nominating if you want, yep. Or if you want to close nominations, we could also do that.
Make a motion to close nominations.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed? Okay, nominations are closed. So like Mr. Thornton said, we have 6 names. We have 5 spots. So we're gonna go and roll call and state your top 5. We have to go until they get a majority.
We have to state our top 5.
Top 5 names. So we have Spencer, Laura, Pickering, Ruckno, Bertoni, and Orlowski.
Are we doing these seat by seat? Is it the new procedure? Rather than 5 minutes?
Okay.
No, they changed their procedure.
Shannon, Attorney LaFancy,
Actually, I'm here.
or Attorney DeLuca, do you want us to do this seat by seat or 5 names? We've done both.
They're all the same term, right?
Yes.
If they're all the same term, do the first round. See who gets 6 votes. And then whoever doesn't get 6 votes would be left to fill the last one. So do the first round, and then if you want to do them all together.
Okay. All right. So then each council member could state their top 5.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca, Attorney DeLuca. Okay. Here we go. Roll call.
Hold on, I have to get.
Yeah, you're gonna write all that down. 5 names times 9, 45 names.
Spencer, Laura, Pickering, Ruckno, Bertoni, Orlowski.
Okay, Mr. LaScavitch.
Robert Bertoni, Laura Guillermo, Frank Orlowski, John Pickering.
You get one more.
Good with that. I can just pick for him.
Mr. Lombardo,
Ms. Spencer, Mr. Lara, Mr. Orlowski, Mr. Pickering, and Mr. Ruckno.
Ms. McDermott,
Mr. Bertoni, Mr. Pickering, Mr. Ruffino, Ms. Spencer, and Mr. Laura, is that?
Mr. Perry,
Mr. Bertoni, Mr. Laura, Mr. Pickering, Mr. Rucko, and Ms. Spencer.
Mr. Schnee,
Ms. Spencer, Mr. Lara, Mr. Pickering, Mr. Orlowski,
Ruckno, or Bertoni.
Ruckman.
Mr. Thornton,
Mr. Laura, Mr. Pickering, Mr. Ruckno, Mr. Orlowski, and Ms. Spencer,
Mr. Urban,
I'm just gonna go and pick Miss Spencer.
Mr. Wilovich,
Okay, Ms. Spencer, Mr. Orlowski, Mr. Pickering, Mr. Ruckno, and Mr. Laura.
Radel,
Ms. Spencer, Mr. Laura, Mr. Pickering, Mr. Ruckno, and Mr. Orlowski.
we have 8 for Mr. Spencer, 8 for Lara, 8 for Pickering, 7 for Ruckno, 3 for Bertoni, and 6 for Orlowski.
Okay, so we have Spencer, Laura, Pickering, Ruckno, and Orlowski got their majority, so we'll have to do each with a resolution appointing them to their spot separately. So first, we'll have the resolution for Ms. Spencer.
So moved.
Second, Lovell.
Roll call.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
yes,
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
yes,
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
None.
Next, the resolution for Mr. Laura.
So move, Lovell.
second,
Roll call.
Thornton,
Hold on, I think did I miss you, Mr. Liscavige, on that vote?
Abstain.
So now we're going to vote on Lara.
right.
So moved.
First,
So move, Lovell.
second,
Thornton, second,
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
yeah,
I'm sorry? Was that a yes?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
She didn't. Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
yes,
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes. Next, resolution for Mr. Pickering.
So
so,
moved.
sorry,
Okay,
second,
first Wilovich, second Thornton, roll call. We'll get to it.
Mr. Perry?
yes,
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
yes,
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Ruckno,
so move,
Second.
roll call.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
yes,
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Mr. Orlowski,
So moved. Below.
Second. Schneer.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, that was the biggest one, so that's good, out of the way. Housing Authority, one term expiring 12/31/26. Do I have a motion open?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are open.
Motion to nominate Daniel Siani.
Second. Below.
What's the name?
Daniel Siani.
Diane?
Second that?
Below.
Motion closed.
Vince Fayok.
Second. Vince Fayok. Perry.
Second on that? Third?
It was Mr. Perry.
What was that name?
Fayok. Vince Fayok.
Vincent Fayok.
Motion to close nominations. Below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are closed. So we have Mr. Fayok and Mr. Siani. But there is one term, so we'll do a roll call vote and state your one.
Mr. Urban?
Siani.
Mr. Lovett?
Sayani.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Sayani.
Mr. Lombardo?
Siani.
Ms. McDermott?
Siani.
Mr. Perry?
Fayok.
Mr. Schnee?
Fayok.
Mr. Thornton?
Siani.
Ms. Radel?
Siani,
Fayok has 2, Siani has 7.
okay, we need the resolution for Mr. Siani.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, we have the redevelopment authority for one term expiring 12/31/26.
Motion to open nominations.
Second. Below.
All in favor of opening nomination?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Rick Williams.
Second.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Pekarovsky.
Second.
Motion to close. Below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are closed. We have Williams and Pekarovsky. We'll do a roll call. Please state the one member that you'd like on the redevelopment authority.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Williams.
Mr. Lombardo?
Pekarovsky.
Ms. McDermott?
Pekarovsky.
Mr. Perry?
Pekarowski.
Mr. Schnee?
Pekarovsky.
Mr. Thornton?
Pekarovsky.
Mr. Urban?
Williams.
Mr. Lovett?
Mr. Williams.
Ms. Radel?
Pekarovsky. Looks like 6 for Pekarovsky, 3 for Williams. All right, we need the resolution for Mr. Pekarovsky.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
No.
Mr. Lovett?
No.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Yes. All right, we have the Luzerne County Transportation Authority.
Motion to open nominations.
Second. To open the nomination.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. All right, nominations are open. We have 2 terms, both expiring 12/31/26.
I'd like to nominate Charles Chandra.
Second.
Nominate Dr. Kefner. Below.
Second.
Second.
Who's the doctor?
Kefner.
No, who was the second?
Who seconded Kefner?
I did.
Mr.
Kepner.
Kefner, Valerie Kefner.
Motion to close nominations.
Second.
Second.
Below.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed. Okay, so we have 2 people and 2 terms, so we'll just do the both resolutions resolution. So the resolution for Chandra.
Motion to.
Yeah.
Second.
Uh,
Oh, sorry.
roll call.
Mr. Thornton went first.
Yep, and Mr. Lombardo with the second.
McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Snead,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes,
Unanimous.
unanimous. Then now we have the resolution for Dr. Kepner.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
McDermott, Bartle.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Snead.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, we have the Luzerne Conservation District, 2 terms, both expiring 12/31/25. Do I have a motion to open nominations?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Ms. Chonko.
Schmidt.
Second.
Thomas Herbert.
Second.
Motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, nominations are closed. So we have Ms. Chonko and Mr. Herbert. And we have 2 terms, they're both expiring the same time. So we could do just the resolution for both of them. The resolution first for Ms. Chonko.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Snead,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
McDermott.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Mr. Herbert, resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Snead,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Mr. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes. Next, we have the Ace Commission, 1 Republican term expiring 12/31/25.
Motion to open nominations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Mosca.
Second. Schmidt.
Anybody want to close nominations?
Motion to close nominations.
Second. Willoughby.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, nominations are closed. We need the resolution for Attorney Mosca.
So moved.
Second. Norton.
Roll call.
Mr. Urban.
No.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
No.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Snead.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
No.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
6 yes, 3 no.
Okay, the next one, we have the Arts Advisory Board. We need 2 people. The resolution does not have a date and it does 12/31/20. Does the Office of Law want to weigh in on when this expires?
Yeah, since the advisory board is a new committee, the terms need to be staggered. So, per the ordinance, there's 1 person for a 1-year term, 1 for a 2-year term, 2 for a 3-year term, and 2 for a 4-year term. If there's, you can appoint up to 7 members. So if you appointed the last 2, then they would be for a 3-year term and a 4-year term. So it's up to council as to the length of time you want to nominate the person for, because to start it off, it has to be staggered.
All right, so we'll do a 3 and a 4-year term. So once we open nominations and you state your nomination, if you want to give who you want for the 3-year term and who you want for the 4-year term, I think that's probably the cleanest way to do it. Is it okay if we do it like that, Shannon?
would say you probably should do each term separate.
Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to open nominations for the Arts Advisory Board for the 3-year term?
Present.
Second.
I'd like to nominate
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed? Okay, nominations are open.
Michelle Millington,
Second.
3-year term.
This is for the 3-year term.
Motion for nominations.
Second, Wilkes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, do I have a motion to open nominations for the 4-year term?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nominations open.
Nominate Ms. Middleton. Oh,
Second.
All right, wait, I couldn't hear, there's 3 people.
Schnee, Mr. Grossman.
Second.
Lombardo. Second.
Do I have a motion to close nominations?
Second.
McDermott, Lombardo, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, okay, nominations are closed. So now we'll do since we have just one for each, we'll do the resolution for Millington first, and that is the 3-year term. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lovett,
yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, now we need a motion for Grossman for the 4-year term, the resolution.
So moved.
So
Carried.
Carried.
Very good, Chairman. Roll call.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes. Okay, next we have the Board of Elections. We need to fill 1 Democrat seat and 1 Republican seat, both terms expiring 12/31/25. So if we could do it separate like we just did, we'll do open nominations for the Democrat and then we'll do open nominations for the Republican, if everyone's okay with that. Good, okay,
It's a motion to open nominations for the Democrat.
okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, nominations for the Democrat seat are open.
Kathleen McCarthy.
Second.
Like to nominate Danny Schramm.
Was the last name?
Schramm.
Second. LaScavitch.
Motion to close
Oh,
nominations.
wait, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
The woman in the audience was speaking before on the election board.
She's a Republican.
That was my question.
Ms. Sorrow, she's Republican, yeah. Okay, so we have McCarthy, Schramm, any other nominations?
Yes. David Newman.
Newman.
Motion to close
Do we have a
nominations.
second for Newman? Or? I'll second that. Okay,
Motion to close nominations.
we have a motion to close.
Second, Wilkes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, nominations for the Democrat are closed. Need Republican.
So move.
Opening nominations for Republican, Wolovich.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, nominations for the Republican are open.
Motion to nominate Elizabeth Sir.
Second.
Motion for Mr. Nardone.
Second.
I'll make a motion for Ms. Was it McCarthy?
Someone already did.
Oh, okay.
Motion to close nominations.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Who was the
abstentions?
second? Was it two of them said second? Wilovich, and then Lombardo.
I had
Who's the one
Urban,
you said?
was before Lombardo.
I heard Urban Lombardo.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so who are the 2 names now nominated for our?
Sorrow and Nardone. Okay, so we first need to do the Democrat. So we'll go in, we'll do a roll call and state your 1 choice for Democrat. That's McCarthy, Schramm, or Newman.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Schramm.
Mr. Lombardo,
Schramm.
Ms. McDermott,
McCarthy.
Mr. Perry,
Newman.
Mr. Schnee,
McCarthy.
Mr. Thornton,
Schramm.
Mr. Urban,
Schramm.
Mr. Wilovich,
Schramm.
Ms. Radel, and 3 for McCarthy, 5 for Schramm, 1 for Newman.
Okay, so no one got a majority, so Mr. Newman got the lowest vote, so we have to go around again and just either Schramm or McCarthy.
Mr. Lombardo,
Schramm.
Ms. McDermott,
Schramm.
Mr. Perry,
McCarthy.
Mr. Schnee,
McCarthy.
Mr. Thornton,
Schramm.
Mr. Urban,
Schramm.
Mr. Wilovich,
Mr. Schramm.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Schramm.
Mr. Perry,
He already
Oh,
voted.
voted.
and Ms. Radel.
Schramm.
7 for Schramm, 2 for McCarthy.
Okay, we need the resolution for Schramm.
So moved.
Second.
Urban Lombardo.
Mr. Lombardo,
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich,
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes.
Ms. Radel,
Yes.
unanimous.
Okay, now, say your nomination for the Republicans, so it's either Fasaro or Nardone.
So moved. Open nomination.
Oh, we're good, we just got your roll.
Oh, no.
Thanks, we'll be on hold.
Ms. McDermott,
Nardone,
Mr. Perry,
Nardone.
Mr. Schnee,
Nardone.
Mr. Thornton,
Pizarro.
Mr. Urban,
Cesar.
Mr. Wilovich,
Fasaro.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Cesaro.
Mr. Lombardo,
Nardone.
Ms. Radel,
Nardone.
5 for Nardone, 4 for Pizarro.
All right, no, neither got a majority.
5-4.
It's 5-4, so. Attorney DeLuca, neither got a majority. Do we just go again? But there's only
Yes.
2.
Yes, I'm sorry, Shannon. Yes.
Okay, again.
Mr. Perry,
Nardone.
Ms. Radel, or excuse me, Mr. Schnee,
Nardone.
Mr. Thornton,
Pizarro.
Mr. Urban,
Cesaro.
Mr. Wilovich,
Fasaro.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Cesaro.
Mr. Lombardo,
Nardone.
Ms. McDermott,
Nardone,
Ms. Radel,
Nardone. Okay, Attorney DeLuca, I don't think anyone is going to change their vote. It stayed the same. So what do we do in this case?
Okay, so you had 2 candidates for 1 position, and you right now have deadlock.
I have 5-4.
Hold on one sec.
But we,
had to get 6.
do they need the 6? They need 6,
Yeah,
right?
need 6.
Yes.
Motion to table this vote until we have additional council members present.
We have a motion to table.
I'll second.
Second.
Choice Wolovich, Urban Wolovich. Today.
Roll call to table.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Radel, Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes. Okay, so that's tabled, just so any of the members of the public are aware, we have a new council member that we just appointed tonight that needs to be sworn in that will be joining us. We have another council member who's absent. We'll put this on the next agenda. Okay, tax assessment, 1 term expiring 12/31/25.
Motion to open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are open.
Make a motion to nominate Mr. Vicendak.
Second.
Motion to close nomination.
Mr. Lombardo.
Ms. McDermott made a motion to close.
Close, Lovich, second.
Lovich seconds. All right, since we just have one term and one nominee, we'll just do the resolution on Mr. Vicendak.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
The County Cares Commission, 2 terms, both expiring 12/31/2025.
Motion on.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions opposed. Nominations are open.
Motion to nominate Bonnie Wazalewski.
Second, Lovich.
Motion to nominate Mr. Knapp.
Second.
Motion to close nominations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions opposed. Okay, nominations are closed. We'll do Ms. Wazlowski first, for the resolution for her.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Mr. Knapp, the resolution for him.
So moved. Second, Lovich.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes. Okay, we have children and youth, 3 terms expiring 12/31/24.
Motion to open nominations.
Second, Lovich.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, nominations are open.
Nominate Helene Elko.
Second, Lovich. Like to nominate Ms. McCarthy, Lovich.
Second.
Second.
Lombardo. I think. Nominate Tiffany Spearman.
Second.
Perry.
Who is that?
Third one, Spearman.
Spearman.
Okay, that was all 3. Do we have a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions opposed. Okay, nominations are closed. We have 3 terms and 3 people nominated, so we will do the resolution for Ms. Elko first.
So moved.
Second, Lovich.
That's Urban Wilovich. Roll call.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, the resolution for Ms. McCarthy.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
It's his turn to vote.
My turn, yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Resolution for Ms. Spearman.
So moved.
Second. Urban second.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes. We have the Luzerne County Community College Board of Trustees, 2 terms, both expiring 12/31/27.
Motion to open nominations.
Second, Lovich.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions opposed. Okay, nominations are open.
Motion for Mr. Bertoni.
Second.
Which one?
It looked like Lombardo and Schnee.
Motion to nominate Joseph Esposito.
Second.
Second.
Yeah, if you guys could just say your name after your motion or second, so.
What happens is when.
They talk at the same time.
Yeah, say
Okay,
it
so we have
once,
2.
I don't-
Any other nominations? We have a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
Second, Lescavage.
Barlow, Miscavige.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, nominations are closed. We have 2 terms and 2 nominees, so let's do the resolution for Mr. Bertoni first.
So moved.
Second.
Thornton, Barlow.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes. The resolution for Mr. Esposito.
So moved.
Second.
So we have Wilovich and McDermott. And a roll call?
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Abstain, business relationship.
0 with 1 abstention.
So we have Mr. Bertoni, Mr. Esposito. Next, we have the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We have 3 terms, all with the same expiration date of 12/31/25.
So-
Motion to open nominations.
Second, Willoughby.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Nominations are
I'd like
open.
to make a motion to Mr. Tony Brooks.
Second.
John.
Lombardo.
Motion to nominate Amanda Cromer.
Second.
I'll make a nomination for Mr. Barry Tenenbaum.
Second. Lombardo.
That's all 3. Do I have a motion to close
So
nominations?
moved. Urban.
Second. Lombardo.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed? Okay, so we have 3 terms, 3 nominees. We can just go right to the resolution. So we'll do the resolution for Mr. Brooks first.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Urban Wilovich.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Next, we have the resolution for Ms. Cromer.
So moved, Willoughby.
Second. Lombardo.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Next, we have the resolution for Mr. Tenenbaum.
So moved.
Second. The end.
Ms. Urban McDermott. Roll call.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes. Okay, so that was Brooks, Cromer, and Tenenbaum. Next, we have Farmland, 2 terms, both expiring 12/31/24.
Motion to open nominations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Nominations are open.
So moved. I'll open a nomination for Mr. John Lucas.
Second.
Motion to nominate Linda Toma.
Second. Schnee.
Motion to close nominations.
Second. Lombardo.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none. Okay. So we actually have 4 open on there, but we have 2 nominees, and that's all we have. So we'll do the resolutions. First, we'll do Mr. Lucas.
So moved.
Second. Lombardo.
Urban.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
And Ms. Toma.
So moved. Urban.
Second. McDermott.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Lovett.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
And Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Next, we have aging. We have 3 terms expiring 12/31/24.
Motion to open.
Second, Willoughby.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? None. Nominations are open.
Dominic Trombetta.
Second, Willoughby.
Motion to nominate Joanne Corey.
Second. Lombardo.
Motion to nominate Mr. Davis.
Second. Lombardo.
Motion to close.
Second, Willoughby.
That was Urban. Wilovich. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Nominations are closed. We have 3 there and 3 nominees, so we'll do Miss Corey first. going off both wood.
Are they all the same term?
They are all the same term, all expiring 12/31/24.
The first one, Corey.
First one's Corey, resolution for Corey.
So moved.
Second, Woj.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Shi.
Yes.
Mr. Gordon.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Mr. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Riddle.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, next we have the resolution for Mr. Noah, or sorry, yeah, Mr. Davis.
So moved, Urban.
Second, Lombardo.
Mr. Shi.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Ms. Riddle.
Yes.
Unanimous.
And Mr. Trombetta.
So moved.
Second. John.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Mr. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Shi.
Yes.
Ms. Riddle.
Yes. Okay, last one, we have Mental Health and Developmental Services Program Advisory Board. We need one nurse and one from Developmental Services. So we'll do it like we did the election board. We'll do the nurse separate and then the Developmental Services
Motion to open nominations.
for
Nurse.
Okay,
Second, Woj.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are open.
Nominate Ms. Jillian Medievich.
Second.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Hastings.
Second. Perry.
Close on.
Motion to close nominations.
Second, Laurel.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, nominations are closed. Okay, so now for the nurse, we have Hastings or Matievich. If we could do a roll call, just state which one you would like.
Mr. Urban.
Medievich.
Mr. Willoughby.
Medievich.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Matievich.
Mr. Lombardo.
Mr. Hastings.
Ms. McDermott.
Matievich.
Mr. Perry.
Hastings.
Mr. Shi.
Mr. Hastings.
Mr. Thornton.
Matty Evans.
Ms. Riddle.
Matievich.
3 for Hastings, 6 for Madievich.
Okay, so now we just need the resolution for Miss Matievich.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Shi.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Ms. Riddle.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, we need open nominations for developmental services.
So moved for Lovich.
Second, McDermott.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, nominations are open.
Scott Crystal.
Second, Lombardo.
Motion to close nominations.
Second, Lovich.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed. Nominations are closed. We have one nominee, so we'll just go to the resolution. It's
So
the
moved.
resolution for Mr. Crystal,
So moved.
Second, Lovich.
Urban, Lovich. Roll call.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Shi.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Ms. Riddle.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you to the public for being patient while we went through all those ABCs. We have public comment on non-agenda items. I have Greg Brannon.
Greg Brannon, Wright Township. Good evening, council members. Thank you again for giving me a moment to speak with you this evening. Upon a quick review of the Federal Treasury's final rule, it was noted that ARP funds could not be used for our roads. It was clearly stated at the top of page 215. There is a rumor, however, that if there is a revenue loss for the county, ARP funds can be used for any government services in the amount of those revenue losses. This would make roads eligible. our county's revenue loss in its entire amount could be used for roads. I would like to once again yield my remaining time by asking 2 questions to Ms. Romo, if she can listen. I emailed you this afternoon. The DCED would not clarify. I responded by asking you to contact the U.S. Department of Treasury for clarification and share the Treasury's response with our council and taxpayers. It's unlikely you got a response, but do you happen to, may ask that question and response? What was it?
Are you
Oh, there she is.
Are you done speaking, Mr. Brennan, and then she could address them, or do you have anything else you want to say before she starts?
Oh, well, I have one thing to say, depending on the answer to her
Okay,
question.
okay, go ahead.
I was not able to contact the U.S. Treasury this afternoon. It was late in the afternoon. I will do my best to contact the U.S. Treasury and to reach out to our representatives also in order to find out who specifically we should be talking to at the U.S. Treasury.
Okay, awesome. All right, so, moving forward, I would just say that I'd like to find a list somewhere, whether it's from you or anyone else on council or in our county government, a list of all of the grants the county has applied for to properly replace our worst roads. So is that information able to be shared at this moment? And if not, when could that be shared?
Well, I forwarded that request to Michelle Sparich, who oversees our grants, and she will be compiling that. And also working with engineering to compile the list of grants that we've applied for in the past.
That's all. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Brandon. Mr. Dartuck.
Good evening, Council, Madam Chair, fellow citizens, and taxpayers of Luzerne County. Tonight is a historical moment within our county and at the meeting. As you see, we have a full house of people with issues and problems that is affecting the lives of us in this county, including yourself. Yes, the road is a major problem, an issue that needs to be fixed. And tonight, we humbly ask that each and every individual make the right decision and do the right thing. Not only to benefit us, so that those who choose to come and live into this county can be welcome with open arms as well. It's not much to say, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dartow. Mr. Gregaris?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to start with the county manager if possible. My concern, echoing Mr. Brandon's, and back to the roads. We've been very outspoken and concerned for, I would say, the last 8 months. And what I'd like to find out or be made aware of is, do we have a plan? I understand it's complicated. I understand there's a lot of moving parts, but does a plan exist, or are we pursuing a plan to address these funds? Or the lack of funds, I should say, to address the road. And if so, what? What forms of revenue or what streams have been pursued? And is there somebody employed by the county that has been tasked with this responsibility?
Mr. Gregaris, just make sure you finish all your comments before anybody answers. I don't want you to use your time up.
The only other one, thank you for that opportunity. It's totally unrelated, but I want to go back to the concerns of small businesses in the community. And my perception, I don't understand, I'm ignorant to this fact. There's $20 million out there that has been advocated to help small businesses with employees of less than 19 in this county. And the concerns are, I don't know. I'm assuming what I read was there may be duplication. We don't know if this is necessary. There's other avenues. Mr. Schnee eloquently elaborated on the need for the flood protection, that it affects homes and families and businesses. I have spoken to numerous colleagues in small businesses that you don't pick up the paper without seeing one close. 20, 30 year, we can't wait any longer. So I don't know what the concerns are or what the issues are. Like I said, I'm pleading ignorant. I don't know. I saw that there's an opportunity to put money on the streets, supported by Penn Northeast, supported by our county redevelopment authority. Everything was there. It seems like they're saying this is the lifeblood. We need it. And I don't understand why we can't act on it any sooner. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to answer that.
You can.
The $20 million, first of all, I'm in favor of small business, but I think we as a council need to sit down and look at all the expenditures for this county. We asked for a thorough list. For instance, 911 is requiring another $3 million for a project that's been ongoing since 2019. That project started out at 20.7 million, now has grown $7 million. That's an unforeseen $7 million. That has to come from somewhere. So my point is, we're faced with an aging prison. We're trying to look long-term, I hope, and remedy some situations and not keep throwing $2 and $3 million at a prison that's going to get us by another 12 months. I can never see the point in that. So me personally, I would like to see us take the money on what we could use it for and put it in the best place for the taxpayers of this county and the people of this county, for this county first. And everything that I'm reading with businesses, and trust me, 90%, and I said this before, of my own accounts don't have 20 employees. I deal with a lot of small businesses. Their biggest gripe today is they could do a lot more business. They don't have the help. They can't hire somebody. And every place I go, they have signs out, help wanted. So while I would personally want to give money to everybody, but I know that's not logical. So I think what we have to do is take the projects that are most important here, like flood protection, which I agree with Mr. Schnee, because the fact of the matter is that we get another major flood and that is not taken care of, and it wipes out the whole valley, the lower valley. None of us will be sitting there because we won't have much to talk about, because all these houses will be gone and you won't have a tax base. We lived in West Pittston, we saw what it can do. We would love, everybody in West Pittston wants a dike. Is it feasible for $70 million? No. So what you got to do is try to do different things to think outside the box.
So the tabling, the money is not just for small business. It could go anywhere. So it's going to be readdressed and applied somewhere else possibly.
What I would like to see us do, and I'm just speaking for me, I'm not speaking for anybody else sitting there. I would like to see a budget, a spreadsheet with all what we're looking for, what we're required to do, what's still out there. Not come 6 months from now and we gave the $20 million to small business and found out we should only give it 10 because now we're short 10 million and we have to raise taxes next year to cover it. So all I want is a list, a spreadsheet with everything on it on what we're faced with.
Including roads.
Including roads, because we looked into roads and the last I knew we need $37 million for that. There's culverts failing, there's drainage ditches, there's shoulders collapsing. We can go on and on. I'm not going to bore you with that.
Yeah. So what is in front of council right now is looking at I don't know the pot, a large pot. And what you're hoping to do is analyze and assess and try to distribute it as equally as possible or as fairly as.
Absolutely.
My only concern is why does that just start now?
Thank you. Thank you for your time. We can finish, you guys can finish this conversation in between meetings. You have your 3 minutes. There's a whole other list of people to speak.
Thank you, Mr.
Well, thank you.
Thank you both.
There's
Mr. Knapp?
$56 million.
But there was also, I asked County Manager Cromwell about the planning for the roads. What are we looking at? Has anybody done anything? I mean, I'll tell you.
Okay, sorry, Ms. Kokomo, did you want to address that briefly?
Well, just briefly, I mean, first of all, we were waiting, we had an interim rule and we were waiting for final rule, which was postponed by the federal government. Everyone has to remember that we will be audited by the U.S. Treasury Department. And we have to make sure that all our information and all our supporting documents for any money that we use with these ARP funds follows the rules. So part of the reason why there was some of the delay was because the final rule came late in the series of the ARP funding. I agree with the council members who spoke. We've been in dialogue. I've forwarded a spreadsheet of all internal requests that were made by departments that potentially the ARP money can be used for. Today, I was forwarded a list of the county roads and our engineering department had them itemized based on some assessments that were done in 2020 as to which roads are worse. So one of the things that I will be talking about is a long-range strategic plan for road and bridges and infrastructure. We have to seriously look at that. We have to itemize what roads can be used, the monies can be used for ARP funding, what roads and bridges can be used with the infrastructure money, and what roads and even bridges can be used if we submit and ask for grant money. So we are compiling that, and I'm working very closely with the members of council because that's something that both county council and the administration absolutely is dedicated to. Two things. One, we have to build our infrastructure with the idea of making our roads safe, and we have to build our infrastructure to bring in economic development. So our plans have to be 1-year plans, 5-year plans, 10-year plans, and 30-year plans, because what we do today will have a consequence for Luzerne County for decades in the future. So we're absolutely taking this very seriously. As to the small businesses, I think all of us want small businesses to succeed and work. I know my family years ago, they ran a gift shop and they ran bars in the city of Hazleton. And I can tell you, my father, who worked in those businesses, knew how difficult it was. And he kind of discouraged us, my sisters and I, from doing that because it's 24/7. And I think everybody has a story to tell about that. But we are working with council. We're going to make adjustments. We want to make sure that the monies that are expended, whether it's for small businesses or the Flood Protection Authority, or even within county projects, they have to be done efficiently, and we have to be smart the way we use our money. So this is a process that we have to be united to overcome, and I believe we are.
Thank you.
Including, I'm under the impression that the LSA grants expire or are due the end of February. Some of the roads that could be addressed via the LSA that are county roads.
We have one actually. We actually have one on the work session that we're asking council to authorize that the county apply for a grant. You have to remember that we have to meet the criteria of the grant. So the grant that we are asking the authority from council, we believe we meet the parameters of the grant. And I can tell you, Michelle Sparich, who oversees our grants and our engineering department, we do look and review the grants that are out there. We apply for ones that we believe that we qualify for, and we will continue to do that. The other thing that I think that we have to really focus on and put some effort in is to reach out to municipalities and tell municipalities, if we fix the roads, we can transfer those roads to you and you can maintain them going forward. We've done it here in the southern part of the county, in Sugarloaf and Conyngham and Butler Township, and it was a win-win. So we have a multi-prong attack, so to speak, that we have to implement in order to make sure that we get these road and bridges repaired for the community. We all ride and drive on these roads and bridges. I don't want to have my family members who I love very much drive on a county road that might be dangerous. No one wants that. But we inherited a situation that that the roads and the bridges are just, they've been neglected. And it ends here. It ends with this council and it ends with this administration. So we have work to do. I know that the majority of council, all of them actually, believe in it, and we're gonna work towards it.
Thank you, Ms. Roquemo. Mr. Knapp, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Vice Chair. On the subject of roads, the thing I want to stress is, and I know everybody here wants nice, controlling ability to drive safely on our roads. The thing I want to stress is with the money raining down, that it is allocated in a proficient manner. Also, the importance of having a watchful eye on the contractors who receive the bids and make sure that the quality of the product being used for the projects is standard or above standard. And I say this because we don't want to be revisiting these roads, even if they are passed on to the communities from Luzerne County's control. We don't want to have to deal with them crumbling apart because of inadequate materials. It's a byproduct of oil, and with the cost of oil going up, that is something that has to be looked over or watched over very carefully. Now, as to the work session, and I understand that this is not agenda items, to the question that County Council discussing the possible formation of a study commission to be placed on the ballot. If the acting chief solicitor Shannon Craig Sansky stated clearly, council cannot seek to form a study commission focused only on improving the current charter. Instead, the study commission must have the freedom under the state law to independently decide if it wants to keep and modify the current home rule structure, draft an entirely new charter, or revert back to the old structure. With this to be fact, I would vehemently oppose the study commission based on these factors. It has helped reduce inherited debt in communities under the three-commission form of government, has helped to secure credit rating, which every household should want to achieve, a good credit rating, which shows me it holds council members responsible for better budgeting, decision-making, and the allocation of taxpayer money. The proverbial quote of kicking the can down the road can be applied if the study commission is voted on by council to have it placed on the ballot for voters to decide. It would place the residents of the county back to square one. The home rule charter is malleable and can be changed, but only, in my opinion, through the formation of a council committee to iron out the kinks, but not to disturb the solid foundation it took 18 months to draw up and voted into existence by county residents on November 2nd, 2010. So there could be a separation of three branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. And also, I want to thank the person who nominated me for being a part of the County Cares Commission. That was recognition enough for this evening. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Mr. Thomas? Okay. Mr. Fitzgerald?
Hey, folks. This meeting was like really good. Got a lot of things accomplished. I actually want to say thank you, Mr. Ferriot. You got some really good points across as far as like
making sure that the levies and everything, some great questions, some benefits to the taxpayers. Want to make sure you give back. Thank you. I really need it. Same with Mr. Schnee, some great questions. Mr. Urban, as usual. I know that people sometimes like this when you ask questions, but boy, oh boy, we need you. Having that said, is that the one question was, you guys think I think you guys really care. I do. However, sometimes I think Mr. Urban's right. You don't get the material fast enough. You guys have full-time jobs and all that. Sometimes, I hate to tell you, but when you say that, you know, we have to do an agenda meeting or push this through because someone's gonna die because of a flood or something, I get that. We all don't want anybody to die. We all want better. We all want the same thing. It's just how we do it and how we implement it and how much we spend our time and money on it. So I would like to see the administration and the council work a little better, where you guys get your material faster, maybe a week in advance, where you guys could read it, go through it, talk as a council. So when you do come here, you're together. Sometimes it doesn't look like that. And honestly, I know you guys care. I do. But like I said, I think that you guys brought up some great points tonight. Mr. Scavage, great. You know, honestly, I believe in you. I don't know you, but I can tell you your heart's really into it. You're going to make a difference in this council. I want to thank you. And like I said, I think what would help is if you guys got some material from the administration faster, so you guys can review it, work behind the scenes, because we don't. That's how it works. And you guys come to an agreement, so you guys are more of a team. And I've seen in the last couple of works, you work better together. I really do like it. So I wish you all the best. I'm going to be here, you know, trying to support you, and, you know, compliment you when you're doing great for your community. And I am going to go against you when I think that you're doing things for. But again, thank you so much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Mr. Venus?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of council. It's getting late, so I'll keep it short and sweet. I just wanted to get up here and say how honored I am to have received the appointment to county council here tonight. There was a great field of candidates, and truly I am honored and cannot state that enough to receive the appointment. I look forward to working with all of you to solve the problems that are facing the members of this county and the residents of this county. And I'm looking forward to get started on day one. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I'm sure I will see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Venus. And we'll be in touch with you. Mr. Venus, we'll be in touch with you regarding the oath of office and that kind of
Fair
stuff.
enough. Thank you.
All right, congratulations. I think Mr. Thomas walked in. Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know if this is the right, I don't know if this public comment, but we're here from the YMCA. We're asking for a resolution for a project that we're going to submit to the county to submit for us.
Okay, we have that on our work session, agenda item number 4. So if you want to speak at that time, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, this way it won't be a public comment. You can speak right on that after.
Okay,
Yeah, when we get to that on that.
Yeah, we weren't sure if we were supposed to do this now or.
Yeah, no problem. We should get there in a few minutes. Shouldn't be too long. Also, before any other members of the public speak, I got 2 emails that were asked to be read into the record during public comment. One is Mary Malone. Good morning. I'm writing as the president of the Greater Hazleton Chamber of Commerce to ask you to consider the maximum amount for the Small Business Grant Program for the federal COVID relief funds. We're quickly approaching the 2-year anniversary of the shutdown, and COVID impact on every aspect of our lives, and small business sector continues to struggle. The Greater Hazleton has over 600 members, of which 78% are businesses with under 50 employees. These businesses are the heartbeat of our area, from insurance agents to dry cleaners to restaurants and auto body shops. They have all experienced business disruption. The shutdown phase was quickly followed by increased costs related to cleaning and compliance with new COVID safe standards. An additional problem has been supply chain issues, where small businesses without large orders do not have preferred status and have endured longer waits or the option to get the items at a higher price. The third element has been labor cost, which has also been the most challenging for small businesses. These businesses now have to compete with companies who have raised employee hourly wages such as $3 to $4 an hour. The impact of small businesses has created reduced hours in order to be able to handle business with less employees. Small businesses are also seeing the cost of basic utilities increase and no relief in sight. The opportunity for a grant to assist them through this final phase where, again, for all intents and purposes, we had another shutdown period the first quarter of 2022. The grants will be welcome relief to our neighbors and friends as we continue to progress towards post-COVID norms. The meeting tonight via Zoom and just one of many stories. Thank you for your time. Next, Walter Griffith, County Controller. Council, I'm shocked that the Office of Law has provided a red line version of a resolution that County Council is required to vote on. The problems with the resolution 2021-52 was explained at 2 sessions of the County Council, yet the Office of Law and Budget and Finance will present a dysfunctional resolution for this County Council to consider and adopt. This is again the reason you need your own attorney. County Controller identified several problems with the 2021-52 resolution, and they are fatal flaws. One major flaw is the language that states tax collectors shall open a separate non-interest bearing bank account for the collection of Luzerne County taxes. Language is very difficult for a tax collector to be able to be compliant when the tax bills are issued with the municipal and county taxes together. The tax collector would be required to receive 2 separate checks, and therefore the property tax bills will be required to be separated for the property owners, which would be a huge increase in cost. The language should state the following: all municipal elected tax collectors and those appointed to collect the real estate property taxes of any municipality in Luzerne County shall place all funds in separate non-interest bearing bank account. The account shall be titled in the name of the elected tax collector and not as an individual, and shall include their tax identification number and the EIN number and name of the municipality and the EIN number and name of Luzerne County. To be clear, no payment of taxes shall be deposited into account bearing only an individual's name and social security number. Walter Griffith, which we did amend that resolution. Do any other members of the public have comments at this time? Mr. Newman.
Thank you. I waited till this session for comments on the flood protection agency. But first, let's get it with the $2.5 million that you appropriated for information technology. Spreadsheets ought to flow like water, but they're only as good as the human brain power that tells the information technology what we need. So, you know, you're on the right track. You're on the right track. Secondly, congratulations to Carl Venus. I know he's left. That's a great selection. That's a great selection. On flood protection, well, one other thing, with the appropriations for the ARP money, in all probability, any contracts that are let for the appropriations may be subject to federal contracting regulations covered by the Walsh-Healy Act, the McNamara-O'Hara Act, and the Davis-Bacon Act. So please keep that in mind, and I'm sure legal counsel will take that under advisement. Flood protection. Chris, great points. I agree with you on the 10%, but it's not 10%. They're getting $8 million. They're giving $510,000 back. That's only 6.4% rounded up. So they're really not giving back 10%. And I'm not being critical, not in any way, shape, or form. I lived through the 1970 flood. I wasn't impacted personally. My mother and her brother, my uncle, had 4 feet of water on the second floor apartment. So I know how important flood protection is. And if $8 million is not enough for them, fine, give them more, because we have to keep the dikes in place. But again, I think the payback was a little bit light. Secondly, as far as the $8 million, who's going to track? And I know you have proposals. I'm not privy to them, but who's going to track what those proposals are being accomplished, or when they're being accomplished, how they're being accomplished, and how much is spent for them. Again, spreadsheets, Kevin, in information technology, you've got it, you have to track it, and you have to make sure that what they're doing is done correctly, and that the money is spent wisely.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Dugan.
you.
Any other members of the public? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Lombardo.
All in favor?
Thornton.
Opposed, abstentions. Okay, meeting's adjourned. It is 8:16. Let's meet back here at 8:22.
Recording stopped.
Yeah, she can, I have it all written down. It's the same one.
See, I wasn't on.
Yeah, she sent an email about it.
Yeah, I thought.
On this?
Yeah.
See, I probably wasn't on the email because.
I'll show it to you later. I gotta run.
Yeah. Hey, Ron, did you see Randy went? Hang on. Catch him before he head out. Are you collecting back? I have, no, you keep on. I know. It's not one person. Well, we're talking about it. Everyone's getting summoned. Okay, we got it. All right, awesome. Okay. You guys are all good. They're all getting summoned. Okay, all right. Nice meeting you. Yes.
It's 8:25. I'm calling the work session to order.
We'll bang that down. She's afraid of it.
I have been.
Yes, you did. You missed it. You missed it.
I don't know if Kevin.
Smashed it.
8:25. We're calling.
Recording in progress.
Pledge of allegiance in a moment of silence. Roll call, Miss Lawrence.
Phyllis Gabbage.
Here.
Mr. Lombardo.
Here.
Ms. McDermott. Here. Mr. McGinley is absent. Mr. Perry.
Here.
Mr. Schnee.
Present.
Mr. Thornton.
Here.
Mr. Urban.
Here.
Mr. Wilovich.
Here.
Mr. Adol.
Here. Any additions, deletions to the work session agenda? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Hearing none, the agenda is adopted. The first thing we have is the state of the county by Manager Kokomo.
Good evening, Madam Chair, esteemed members of County Council, fellow residents of Luzerne County in the chambers today, and those who might be watching virtually. It is a privilege to present the State of the County address in the People's Chambers. This is my first State of the County, and what a humbling experience this is during one of the most historic times in the history of Luzerne County. And I say this not because we're emerging from the shadow of COVID-19, but because we are on the cusp of greatness. To all council members, both returning council members and new members, your passion for public service is unmatched. Each of you come to us with a history of public service and a passion for the community. I want the public to know that all of these council members work hard for you every day. They take their job seriously and put in many long hours that most people don't even know about. I'm proud to serve with them and feel honored to serve alongside each of you. I also want to recognize those other elected officials that serve us so well. District Attorney Sam Sanguadolce, thank you for leading the way in making Luzerne County safe. And Controller Walter Griffith, thank you for leading the way in making Luzerne County a better place to live. And to my executive team, including my senior team members, the Director of Budget and Finance, Brian Sweats, Interim Division Head of Administrative Services, Angela Gavlik, Interim Division Head of Operational Services, Fred Rosenkrantz, Division Head of Judicial Services, Joan Hogarth, Division Head of Human Services, Lynn Hill, the Division Head of Correctional Services, Mark Rakovich, and the Chief Public Defender, Stephen Greenwald. Thank you for standing with me for the last 7 months. It hasn't been easy, but we have overcome so many significant challenges together. Throughout the past year, the county has done a lot of remarkable work Even amid a pandemic, we have continued to provide essential services to the community and develop new efficiencies that allow us to work smarter. There have been new and unforeseen challenges in providing services, and we have met those challenges. For each employee of Luzerne County, I am more amazed and more thankful every day for you, for how you do your work, and for how you deeply care about our community. You inspire me every day, and from the deepest part of my heart, I thank you. Extraordinary things can come from ordinary people in the most challenging times. This is the story of each of us, and this is the story of Luzerne County. Some of you tonight are watching this meeting at home, and some of you are in the chambers. I say thank you. Thank all of you for being active, engaged citizens and being a part of this amazing county. And thank you for putting your faith in us. President Harry Truman once said, "America was built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand." Friends and colleagues, I'm here to tell you tonight that the county administration is ready to do the job at hand, and our county council are here to do the job at hand. Together, united, we will do the job at hand, because we are the state of the county, and we are united to move it forward. A few months ago, I highlighted our administration's efforts in my year-end address, and I gave a thorough overview and sneak peeks of things to come. But the first item we need to address and acknowledge is how we are moving forward with our finances. Last week, we passed an ordinance authorizing the reduction of the interest rate on our general obligation note. Let me say it again. Last meeting, we authorized a reduction of the interest rate on our general obligation note. That is quite the accomplishment. You've been keeping our tax revenue anticipation note at all-time lows, and we submitted a no tax increase budget. We had to make hard financial decisions, and we faced difficult financial times, but we made smart choices and will continue to make smart choices with the federal dollars that will not only save the county money, but also supply essential services for the public when they need it most. We are doing the same thing with the American Rescue Plan. By working closely with County Council, we will use the ARP funds and infrastructure's money in a smart way, specifically to support our infrastructure of roads and bridges, to spur economic growth, make sure our residents are safe, and to use the monies to improve internal county projects that will reduce our general fund outlay, and in turn, hopefully, negate any need for any tax increase. By working with council, the administration will focus on reducing expenditures by streamlining procurements of goods and services, reviewing our RFP process, reviewing our contracts, and transition our departments to working more efficiently and embracing technological advances. I am pleased to say that we have already embarked on these processes. I want to be clear. This is how government is supposed to work. This is emblematic of good government. Upgrading our infrastructure is vital for our economic growth, We will focus on repairing and replacing roads and bridges. That is a promise that the administration will make, and we will work closely with council. We will do it in a multi-factored way. One of the ways will be to continue to seek out grants for improvements in any roads and bridges. We will also seek and have a big push to ask municipalities that if we repair roads, that they will take care of the maintenance. And of course, we really have to specify how we are going to use the infrastructure money as opposed to the ARP money, as opposed to what roads we can use by applying for grants. We do this because we need to build up the infrastructure for economic development. Our local developers have invested millions and millions of dollars in Luzerne County. North Point has come into the new Luzerne County and invested hundreds of millions of dollars as well. And on those building blocks come additional developers, both nationally and internationally. We need to have an infrastructure that supports development. We also have to look at ways to pivot development and increase salaries with specialized jobs. And we do this in ways that are trying to be creative. The county can work with businesses and local universities to match up the jobs that developers and industry needs, the highly skilled jobs that industry needs, with the universities training future employees of those companies, or technical schools training future employees of those companies. The county can facilitate that arrangement and support those types of arrangements. We also need, and we have to applaud, the use of the land that was ravaged by the coal industry to transform it into productive land where jobs are created. Because when jobs are created, so is hope. The county must partner with these industries to bring the much needed jobs that are safe and provide competitive salaries and benefits. A recently released annual report by the Pennsylvania Governor's Action Team, an organization dedicated to attracting and expanding businesses in Pennsylvania, shows northeastern Pennsylvania as the Commonwealth's leader. The Commonwealth's leader in job creation, with over 2,300 new jobs added to the region in the fiscal year 2021. This report also confirmed that Northeast Pennsylvania created more new jobs than any other region of the state in both the high-paying manufacturing industry and regional and national headquarters sectors. That's right, folks. Luzerne County is open and ready for business. We focus, as we should, on our finances and your finances, but we are also focused on your expectation for efficient and well-delivered services. We have faced significant trials and tribulations over the past few months, but we have overcome them and we are ready to move forward. Children and Youth Services continues to work diligently with the Northeast Regional Office, the state, and numerous community partners to ensure the safety and well-being of children throughout Luzerne County. They've partnered with Carl Ayers of the Casey Foundation, leading experts in child welfare, to strengthen the culture and instill best practices within the agency. In addition, CYS administration continues to work closely with our Human Resources Department and the Civil Service to address vacancies, particularly caseworker vacancies. Here's some of the work that children and youth did over the year. 7,257 referrals were received by the agency. 3,702 families are receiving ongoing services from the agency. And this number represents the total number of families served by the agency per our child accounting and profile system. 292 children achieved permanency. And currently, there are 548 children in placement. And in 2001, 61 children were adopted. In our drug and alcohol department, the Luzerne County, Wyoming County Drug and Alcohol Program has welcomed 2 new inpatient residential rehabilitation programs and 1 new methadone clinic to Luzerne County. The Luzerne, Wyoming County Drug and Alcohol Program began its state opioid response funded housing grant program on April 1st of 2021 in partnership with the Commission on Economic Opportunity. The program has already connected approximately 163 Luzerne County residents recovering from opioid use disorder and or similar disorders. They provide housing and mental health assistance and other housing related assistance, including utility payments. Over the next year, you will be hearing more of what our drug and alcohol department will be doing when we receive monies as a result of the opioid litigation. We know that opioids are ravaging our communities, and Luzerne County is committed to stop that. Our mental health and developmental services department launched a Handle with Care on October 1st of 2021. This is an initiative that promotes safe and supportive homes, schools, and communities that protect children and help traumatized children heal and thrive. This program promotes school communities partnerships aimed at ensuring that children who are exposed to trauma in their home, school, or community receive appropriate interventions to help them achieve academically at their highest levels, despite whatever traumatic circumstances they may have endured. Our area agency on aging thought personnel had worked tirelessly with local emergency management services and the Department of Health to deliver COVID vaccinations to area high rises and housing complexes throughout Luzerne County. I want to tell council and I want to tell the public who's listening, both our mental health department and our area agency on aging were first on the scene and continue to provide services for the displaced individuals as a result of the fire at Jeddo. These are the day-to-day things that our departments and our government is providing to the community. In our Division of Judicial Services, our coroner's office also feels the consequences of the opioid problem in Luzerne County. The coroner's office handled 1,913 death incidents. 1,513 death incidents were without COVID-19 and 400 COVID-19 deaths. There was 1,073 natural deaths and 145 accidental deaths, which include elderly fall deaths. There were 14 homicides, 49 suicides, 41 motor vehicle fatalities, 154 drug overdoses, with 42 pending. They did 80 autopsies, 430 bodies to the morgue, and 2,425 cremations. We had issues with our IT department and we faced them. We asked CCAP to come in. They did an assessment. That assessment was shared with council, and now we are working with CCAP to develop a strategic plan for IT. We will no longer have an IT department that is responding to fires. We need an IT department, and we will have an IT department that will have goals, 1-year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals. That's the way to run an IT department, and we will do that. And even with all the obstacles that we faced with our IT department, we still had many, many achievements. Here's a few. They were able to roll out a multi-factor authentication program, which keeps our processes safe. They provided support for remote workforce. They worked with the courts to implement an electronic filing system to file judges' orders and give electronic service notification of documents. We're doing this in dependency court with CYS and Judge Rogers. It is working, and we are going to use that model by unifying with the courts to make the courts, the filing of documents, more efficient and easy for the users. Our elections department will be running 3 elections this year. And with that, we are also implementing technological changes to better manage records, including a new database for tracking poll workers' assignments and candidate and district filings. We talked about the prison earlier. And Council Member Lescavage is right. We are doing our due diligence and embarking on a journey to replace our existing prison. We will investigate all options and we will plan for the future. It's a long time in coming, but we have to do it now. So going forward, the administration, with the input and support of County Council, has 5 long-term goals for 2022. The first, of course, is to have a road and bridge infrastructure strategic plan. That includes a time schedule. It includes the monies that we need to repair or upgrade our roads. It also includes a schedule to maintain those roads once they are repaired. As I mentioned earlier, we are looking at a long-range strategic plan for internet technology department. The other area that we will concentrate is on the safety and security of county buildings. We've already started that. We'll be initiating an active shooter notification process, and we will strengthen our COOP plan to make sure that our judicial employees, our legislative members, and our administrative employees are all safe when they enter county buildings. The other area that the administration is supportive of and will address is to support our communities in eliminating blight. We need to make Luzerne County beautiful. The blighted areas and the blighted conditions bring down our communities. And we need to make a concerted effort to eliminate that as much as possible. And we will be doing that by working with our Blighted Property Committee. And finally, we will focus on streamlining county services to run more efficiently. Going forward, sustainable funding for county programs and services remains a challenge, but also a focus. We are up to this challenge as long as we remain cautious in spending, prudent budget practices that provide for funds to be set aside in good years to support operations in the bad economic times. That time is now. We are hopeful and we are resilient. In times like these, our mission of striving to be the best continues to be a beacon that directs our steps as county employees. It's a beacon that illuminates the challenges and the pain that faces our communities. It's a beacon that inspires us to bring our very best every day. And it's a beacon that reveals a tremendous hope for a better future. And as county employees, this beacon drives us to reach deep inside to find extraordinary things. Extraordinary things can come from ordinary people in the most challenging times. This is the story of each of us, and this is the story of Luzerne County. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Kokomo. Number 2, we have the budget report for January 2022.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's going to be pretty brief. Everyone knows that the focus was on closing 2021. I sent council emails on that, as in prior years. Just one thing on page 4, there's a little over 1.7 million for prior year real estate. So that's obviously the new tax bills didn't go out yet, so that's got to go back into 2021. When I answered one of Mr. Urban's emails, I did mention that we're on the accrual basis of accounting. So we're working on, now that the hard close is done for invoices, journal entries to get things ready for our auditors. Historically, they've been in early March. And just as a little way of background, our tax bills usually would have went out a little bit earlier, but with cleaning up the language for the resolution, they're actually being mailed, I believe, tomorrow, and the first date is 2/28. So that's when the tax bills will be start. I think it's all but 5 or 6 municipalities, for whatever reason, could not complete. I think one had a resignation. So most of our tax bills and most of the municipalities will be out on Monday. So I really don't have much because, as I stated, we're working on the prior year. As we get to next month, we'll have some more current year information. Now, any questions either tonight or you want to email to me, I'll gladly get back to all of council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swets. Number 3, we have the discussion regarding the resolution requesting an LSA grant from the Commonwealth Financing Authority. This is regarding roads and there's no match required. Ms. Kokomo, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, and we referred to it earlier. This is a grant application requesting financial assistance for design and construction of improvements on Oak Hill Road in the Crestwood Industrial Park. These funds, this particular grant needs to be used for economic development in an area where there's economic development, and the Crestwood Industrial Park fits that profile. It has 3,000 plus employees, and it has a tax revenue paid to Luzerne County for these businesses about approximately $270,000 for 2021. So we would need the authority to submit for that grant application.
Thank you, Ms. Procomo.
Quick question.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Thornton.
Is that LSA money grant available every year or is it every couple of years?
That's available every year, but it has certain grants have certain requirements, and this grant, we believe, these particular roads fit that requirement.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
I
Mr.
just like
Chair.
to compliment Attorney Crocomo, that road, Crestwood Drive, Oak Hill Drive on Sun, it parallels 309 is horrendous. I go there all the time. Jim, I go there on that road. Major trucks go down there. It's a major industry, like you said. Boy, it really needs to get fixed. Great choice.
Again, I would just like to say real quick, this is it's an important road. I've actually received many complaints from that road. And LSA grants, I believe if you can get them, go after them.
Thank you, Mr. Wolovich. Next, we have another LSA grant, number 4. It is for the YMCA Camp Kresge. Again, I believe there's no match for that. I think we have members from the YMCA here, but Romelda, did you want to say anything before?
I believe that the representatives from the Y will be able to answer all the questions from council and provide additional information.
Mr. Thomas, did you want to? If you just want to briefly speak to it, and then we'll see if we have any questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
So YMCA is, the work that we've been doing in the last couple of years is a lot around childcare and around feeding programs. And we currently have sites in Pittston City, Wilkes-Barre City, Pittston Township, and in 44. Our camp is in Denison Township, outside of Lehigh. And the dining hall that's been there has been there since 1953. Needs to be replaced. We're feeding more and more kids on a daily basis, and this is our summer programs. Like on a daily basis for all those other sites, we feed about 500 kids a day. In the summer, that goes up to about 1,000 kids a day. We do programs in parks. So we're in 2 Pittston parks. We're in 7 Wilkes-Barre parks. This year, we're expanding to Whitehaven, Mountaintop, and Hazleton areas with outreach to provide in areas where kids and families can come to collect and get lunch for the kids that are not in school. This is a part of a bigger project. The dining hall itself is worth about $3 million. We're asking for the county to submit an application on Y's behalf for LSA funds for the site work, which is about $300,000, which is the first piece of this project. We have private investment. We got a check just in December for $500,000. We believe we have about $1 million of the $3 million is already. We have $1 million of the $3 million raised at this point in time, and we believe that we will be able to get the rest of the grants. So really, what we're asking for is just the county to submit the application. We know that it's up to the legislators to make that decision. This project is worthwhile. It shouldn't be at a cost.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Do any council members have questions? Okay, thank you.
I have a sheet I can circulate.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Just real quick, I want to thank you very much. Community service is very near and dear to my heart. Thank you for all of your hard work.
Just want to say a little bit on the childcare piece. Like the YMCA, through the pandemic, we're only closed for about 10 days, and we've been providing emergency services to families that have kids that needed to go to work and had no place for their kids to be. When kids had no place to do their schoolwork, and their parents were both working, we converted a gymnasium to a Pittston facility in Wilkes-Barre, created 4 classrooms in each gym, and had kids there working on the computers. So the white staff could support them when their parents really couldn't. So we try to do everything we can. We partner with the county, but a few other projects. Actually, there's a bathroom or changing facility that the county was part of. Get back in 2007, 2008. Still serve the kids and families. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you for what you do.
I think it's very good.
able to carve out a little piece of the ARP money if they don't receive this money toward that project?
We can take a look at that. We'll note it to the Office of Law and Attorney Kokomo that, you know, we want to look into if they don't get this LSA grant, possibly looking for ARP money for the YMCA. We won't put you on the spot now, but just keep it in the back of your head that we can look into doing this. Thank you, Mr. Wascavage, and thank you guys from the YMCA for everything that you do. Next, we have the County Manager Search Committee. Okay, so in the voting session, council voted to approve the process for hiring the next county manager. So today, the names were forwarded to me. No one from the committee is on right now, but the 3 names of the candidates being passed on to council were forwarded to me. It is Mr. Randy Robertson, Attorney Romilda Crocomo, and Mr. David Johnson. These names, according to the process, they're going to be immediately forwarded to HR for background checks. Council will get resumes, caliper tests, and cover letters sent to them tomorrow. The caliper tests will remain confidential for council member view only. The resumes and the cover letters could be released at this time. So those are the 3. Council will get those. And then hopefully by next Tuesday, we'll give HR a 1-week turnaround. We should have those background check information. After that, we'll have an executive session. And if council wishes to have the county manager search committee there, they also said they'll make themselves available to go over any information with us.
Can you just repeat the 3 names again?
Yep, I'll repeat them. It's Mr. Randy Robertson, Attorney Romilda Crocomo, and Mr. David Johnston. Johnston. Those are the 3 names forwarded by Mr. Hackett, the chair of the county manager search committee. Their resumes, cover letters, and caliber tests will be made available to council tonight, and then the resumes and the cover letters will be released. The caliper tests are to stay confidential. Does anybody have any questions for that? We don't have them here, but I could try to answer anything if any council members have questions.
So, quick question. So there's 3 names submitted to us, and that's it, right? Nobody else?
3 names were the only thing we got, so I believe the narrative. No one forthcoming. The 3 names are the 3 that were given to work with, and you'll get all that information tonight. I just got it. So.
Okay.
Next, we have discussion regarding the ordinance. This is regarding the Government Study Commission. I think the only reason we had it on there was to clarify questions that were brought up last time. I think there was uncertainty on whether we could veto a decision made by the Government Study Commission. I'll let Attorney Lipsansky speak, but I believe we cannot veto a decision made by them. And I also think that we wanted to see a timeline, and that was provided as well. I know there wasn't a lot of favorable discussion regarding it, but I know those questions were there and they wanted to be addressed. So those 2 are addressed. Does anybody have anything else regarding that?
I think Mr. Knapp said it all tonight. Thank you.
I reiterate what I heard last.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, if nothing else on that, we'll just move on to 7. Does anybody have anything? Thank you. 7, we have discussion regarding bylaws. So those were to add the infrastructure committee and the review committee. The bylaws needed to be changed because those committees will not meet in public setting. Attorney Craig Lipsansky, do you have anything on those bylaw changes? Or Attorney DeLuca?
No, the only thing that needs to be done is on the bylaw change, which is the most.
What's that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, we were just asking about adding the infrastructure and the review committee. So I know there's changes that need to be made in the bylaws to allow that, but then also if they're going to be standing committees or ad hoc committees, don't we need to, or if they're standing, the charter would need to be amended, is that correct?
Well, for the bylaws, only a motion will need to be made, but if you want to create a new committee, then that would require an ordinance.
An ordinance, okay. Anybody have any questions on those?
Madam Chair, don't you think we need some bylaws for those,
What's that?
for those committees? You know, so what are they gonna do? What's the, you know, suggest, we need to have some bylaws, something about what that committee is going to do. And so we
Yeah,
can move forward with forming the committee.
we'll get that moving forward, and I know we were working on that. We just wanted to get that on there about how we
Okay.
would need to change that. We need to advertise an ordinance to get those created if we wanted them to be standing committees. Does council want them to be standing committees or ad hoc committees?
I would say infrastructure should be standing.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, I think both should be.
Yeah.
And I also want to add, maybe we should look at other counties that have those committees now, like the infrastructure committee.
Okay,
See how long they've been doing that and what kind of bylaws they have.
okay, we could do research on that. All right, if no council members have anything else, we'll move on to public comment.
Yeah, I have
Sure.
one item. For 58 years, a crime went on unsolved in Luzerne County. And I'd just like to thank the state police, the DA's office, let alone the 20-year-old man that actually solved the case. I mean, people talk about the funding the police. I don't know if anybody ever watched the press conference here. Those state police and everybody ever stopped working for 58 years to give this family some, it's not closure because you'll never get over it, but some kind of thing. And the state police, the DA's office, the 20-year-old young man that God had to send here to solve that case for that family. Everybody here, I thank them for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shi. Okay, we have Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I kind of switched it. After listening to the YMCA, I hope you guys do help with the grant. I, single mom projects in Sherman Hills. I was actually went through the flood in 72. I was in the trailers, and some of my fondest memories was getting dropped off because she went from job to job to job. And some of my fondest memories were at the YMCA. I remember playing Monopoly there when I first learned it and all that. So if you guys could find it in your hearts to help them in any way, I'm sure there's a lot of, you know, adults like me that were kids like that that needed help. I remember going through food lines with the little ticket and all that because I was the poor kid on the block. And it's not a nice place to be. You know, I think I had a loving mother that taught me responsibility and, you know, life isn't fair and, you know, you got to work for what you have. And I got, that's where my tenacity is from. But whatever you could do for that YMCA, and anything I could do for you to help the YMCA, I'll even put some time on the side for that. So again, I think, again, I know we all care in different ways. And I just want to say thank you again for having these public comments. I hope you don't get rid of them because I think that you guys can learn a lot from, you know, sometimes working an extra hour every 2 weeks. And I hope you don't shut that down for maybe that reason. And again, I thank you all for having this here today. Thanks, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Mr. Knapp?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to concur with what Stephen Urban, Councilor Urban mentioned last meeting about the committees working in concert so that the work sessions, some of those issues, a lot of the issues that are presented with those committees, if they could work and hammer out issues before they come to the work session, so there will be less time. I understand it's time taken away from your already busy schedules, but if the committee, if the committees did their due diligence as the committee should, it would it would cut down on the work session time. And I wanted to express definitely that to eliminate 3 minutes of the 9 minutes unless there's the process that we had the public,
Public hearing.
yeah, public hearing, yes.
Yeah.
That adds an additional 3 minutes, but thank you, Chairman. The fact of the matter is 9 minutes is a short amount of time. To give us the 3 minutes before the work session, we close out the non-agenda items. The non-agenda item timeframe is for the constituents who elected you into office to come in and bring the issues that they're experiencing and living through to council at that time. That's my perception of non-agenda items. And then if those non-agenda items are picked up on by council members, then the next meeting, the work session would deal with those things. So to listen to your constituents, that's paramount. And really, I can't say anything more than that. To move it to beforehand, that would be I think a ways and means to hear the public first, and it may minimize the meetings times, of course, with the committees working. Now, as far as the road repairs, I have to emphasize this. We have to be on top of the contractors because of the petroleum byproducts, the hyperinflation. Unfortunately, humans are humans, and if they can cut corners, we don't want lackluster performances in these repair jobs. And we got to make sure that the manager is held accountable in those projects so that the roads hold up well into the expected lifespans as it should. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp.
Yes.
Ms. Pissarro and Mr. Gregaris put things in for the work session, but I don't see them here. So any other members of the public? Mr. Newman.
Yes, this is a non-agenda item. Blue Cup Ventures LLC is proposing a 973,000 square foot warehouse project in Wilkes-Barre Township on a plot of land that runs between Johnson Street and Interstate 81. It's the old Franklin Colliery workings. According to the solicitor for Wilkes-Barre Area School District, they have proposed alerta, and the township has already approved it. The school district has already approved it. And according to Solicitor Wendelowski, the tax on the land, presently, it's assessed at $26,759, brings in $42 to the township, $164 to the county, and $495 to the school district annually. Approval of the LRTA, and these are his numbers. Those figures jump to $50,000 annually for the township, $590,000 annually to the school district, and $200,000 annually to the county. My question is, why hasn't that been approved? This is the growth that I've been talking about for the county. Keep in mind, growth is jobs. Growth equals additional revenue, and additional revenue equals increased services. These are the things we've talked about tonight. Increased services, get your roads fixed. And by the way, there is a road, southern end, or in my end of the county, through the Hanover Township Industrial Park. Starts in Sugar Notch Borough, runs through Hanover Township, ends in Warrior Run Borough. It's an industrial park, heavily traveled, heavily traveled. I don't know what the revenue is, tax revenue from those properties are, but I'm sure it's substantial. The road has never been touched since it's been put in several years ago. It needs attention. So who's ever recording, please put that on the prospective list, okay? And I will say this. I'm not going away. I'll be continue to come. I will continue to make suggestions. I will continue to offer dissent when necessary, constructivism when necessary, because those are healthy items in government.
Thank you, Mr. Newman.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed, abstentions, hearing none, meeting adjourned.
No, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just feel a little sluggish right now.
Recording stopped.